Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or if this is your first time here, hello, I'm Claire. So today I have a really awesome tutorial for you guys. As you can see, I finally have my stairwell set up behind me, and I decided, since I've gotten so many questions about this in the past, that this would be a great time to go ahead and show you guys how I did it for myself. But before we jump into the build, I'm going to show you how to set up the Subcommand Glitch Keybind, how to use it, and what to do. So let's go ahead and jump into that now. In order to set up your Display Subcommand Keybind, you're going to need to go into your System Settings. And once you're in the System Settings, go down to Keybinds. Under Keybinds, you're going to locate the System tab, and then you're going to go down to Display Subcommands. You should see that there's already a key assigned to it. You can go ahead and change it to whatever you'd prefer. Just make sure that it's a key that's not already assigned to something, otherwise it's going to overwrite it and you're going to have a headache and a mess later to clean up. So once you've decided on your keybind, go ahead and click Apply, and then close out. You now have your Display Subcommand set up and ready to use. In order for the Display Subcommand Glitch to work, the item is going to need to come from your housing storage. I'm going to go ahead and pull out an imitation square window, and as you can see, it's purple behind me, which means that the item is unable to be placed. So, one way to get around that is by using the Display Subcommand Glitch. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the key that I assigned to it earlier, and then I'm going to hit it one more time in order to place the item. And there you have it. That's pretty simple, right? Okay, so let's get into the rest of the tutorial and start building that stairwell. In this tutorial, I'm using a double feather bed, a riviera bed, several stage panels, several imitation square windows, one riviera wall shelf, and one spider plant. I'm currently at the bottom of my stairwell. I am placing a double feather bed from my housing storage as far as I can underneath the stairwell. After you've placed the bed as far as it'll go, it's time to rotate it. Once you're done rotating, it's time to /doze. If you can see under the stairwell after you doze, congratulations, that means you placed the bed far enough in. If you didn't, it's okay. Just try the step again until you're able to see underneath. Once you're successfully able to see underneath the stairwell, it's time to place the riviera bed from your storage. You might need to rotate your camera a bit in order to position the riviera bed. Once you have the riviera bed positioned, you can go ahead and move it more towards the center of the stairwell. After you have the riviera bed where you want it, go ahead and port to your front door. To remove the double feather bed at this point, if you'd like, go ahead and /doze again, and it'll port you under your stairs. Now it's time to place your first stage panel. This part can be a little tricky due to the camera angles. Don't worry, just keep at it and you'll get it. I like to turn my grid snap on for the first rotation, just to make sure that I have it aligned properly. Tilting my camera up, I'm just making sure that the stage panel is going to cover the pillar above. And that looks pretty good. Now that the first stage panel is in position, it's time to go ahead and place the second one. After you have your second stage panel placed, go ahead and turn your grid snap on and rotate it like your first. It's time to move it into position, so make sure to turn your grid snap off and align it with the first stage panel. Aligning the stage panels to where they're seamless can be a bit frustrating. But don't worry, keep at it and you'll get it. I promise. Once I finish aligning the stage panels, I like to go ahead and look at it from the other direction, just to make sure that I didn't miss anything. And see, that's why I do it. One side it'll look seamless, and the other not quite so much. Now that I've corrected the seams of both stage panels, it's time to move on to the next. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the rest of this footage, just so this doesn't turn into a 45-minute long tutorial. However, just so you know, I'm doing everything that I just showed you. I'm just making sure to cover the rest of the wall underneath the stairwell with more stage panels. To move on to the other wall under the stairwell now. So we're going to be doing what we did before when we placed the first stage panel. I'm rotating it and making sure that it's aligned properly to the wall behind it. I'm also panning my camera up to make sure that I'm covering the banister above. Now that I have that first stage panel placed, it's time to go ahead and place the second one. We're going to be aligning it just like we did on the first set of stage panels. I'm simply tilting my camera around now, just to see how I've done. And it looks like everything's pretty good so far. It's time to start floating the first of our stage panels. What I'm doing here is I'm checking to see where the center of my stage panel is, since I do have them layered. So I like to grab onto the stage panel, see where the center is, and then release it. Grabbing another stage panel from my housing storage, I'm going to go ahead and place it to where it's just off center of the previous stage panel. Once I have the stage panel in position, I'm going to place a Riviera wall shelf from my inventory onto the stage panel as low as it can go, and then quickly hit escape after I place the wall shelf. Once you've confirmed that the stage panel has in fact floated, it's time to remove the Riviera wall shelf and place it back in your inventory. Now it's just a matter of repeating this step multiple times until you float the stage panel to your desired height. I recommend floating it to the first landing of your stairwell. You're going to be repeating the previous steps with the remaining stage panels as well. Please don't forget to rotate your stage panels after you're done floating them. If you don't rotate them, they will snap back to the ground and all that hard work will be lost. Now that you've gotten the first set of your stage panels floated, it's time to step out and pat yourself on the back. You've officially just completed the hardest step of this tutorial. So now let's start floating the stuff outside of our stairwell. We're going to be floating these stage panels just like we did the other ones, only our camera angles are going to be more forgiving out here. Okay, we are officially in the home stretch now, I promise. So let's go ahead and head upstairs and see what we've completed so far. You can definitely see where it's starting to come together. Let's go ahead and pop back down to the stairwell and we'll get started on the next step. Unfortunately, we're not done floating stage panels yet, but we do have much better camera angles here, so it's definitely a lot easier. So remember to look for the center of the stage panels, and what we're going to do is we're going to place a stage panel from our housing storage onto the first landing. Remember to line it up to where it's just off center of the first stage panel that you're intending to float, and then using your subcommand keybind, you're going to place it. From here, we're just going to float it like our previous stage panels, so using the Riviera wall shelf from our inventory, and then placing it as low as it'll go on the stage panel that we just placed, followed quickly by hitting escape. You might notice that both of my stage panels here are actually floating. It's not intended, but it does happen. I choose to ignore it as it doesn't affect the outcome in the end. I'm just stepping back now to confirm that I have the stage panel floated to my desired height. It looks pretty good, so now it's time to fill in that gap. Let's go ahead and doze again to get underneath your staircase, and then we're going to place the stage panel again. It's important that we line the stage panel up like we did our first set. So what I'm doing here is placing it, and then I'm going to be using one of the stage panels above to align it properly. As you can see here, I'm off by a hair. So I'm going to go ahead and position it again and just keep working until I make sure that it's seamless. It also looks like I forgot to rotate it earlier. So re-enabling my grid snap, I'm going to rotate it now and then place it. I'm now going to pop upstairs to see if that gap's covered. And it looks like it isn't, which means we get to float again. So let's go ahead and head back under the stairwell and get started on that. Again, this is just like all of our previous floating. We're going to be looking for the center of the stage panel we intend to float. I'm going to be moving the second stage panel to where it's just off center. Let's head back upstairs and see how we did. Looks like we did pretty good. So let's go ahead and remove the stage panels from underneath. It's time to focus on floating the stage panels above the steps. So what we're doing is the same thing we did behind us on the stairwell, is we're looking for the center of the first stage panel we're going to be floating, and then we'll be placing a separate stage panel using the Display Subcommand Keybind. And now we simply float it like we did all the other stage panels prior. So now that we've finished floating that last stage panel, we still have one more to go. So let's head downstairs and get to that. This last floating stage panel can be a little bit tricky. You're going to need to reposition the stage panel quite a few times in order to float it. But just keep an eye on it and keep an eye on the center, and you should be fine. And that is officially the last of floating any of the stage panels. Go ahead and pat yourself on the back. You have done a lot of work and you've done great. Now it's time for the fun decorating part. Go ahead and choose whatever windows you like. I'm a big fan of the imitation square windows, so I use those here. Do remember that you will need to use your Display Subcommand Keybind in order to place any windows onto the stage panels. I hope that this tutorial was helpful to you. If it was, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I have many more videos planned for the future. If you have any questions, feel free to drop one in the comments below and I'll get back to you. Until then, take care and happy housing.